Have you ever wondered why Godita never faced Jiren, especially after Universe 6 did a fusion in the Tournament of Power? In today's video, I'm going to explore why this matchup is completely unfair, but don't worry. I'm going to prove it to you with logic, feats, and scaling that you probably never thought of. Interesting topics will arise, such as how strong is Godita? Is he as powerful as Beerus? Is Gogeta Blue more powerful than the current Ultra Instinct Goku from the manga? And so on. When Jiren appeared, he was Universe 11's trump card and the most feared being in the Tournament of Power. A silent, meditative warrior with a strength that even surpassed the god of destruction of his own universe. Whis, who rarely gets impressed, even stated that Jiren surpassed the expected limits of any mortal. That alone already put him on an absurd level, being the first mortal to surpass the powers of a god of destruction. During the Tournament of Power, even with Goku using Super Saiyajin Blue combined with Kaioken times 20, Jiren barely showed any reaction. His punches, stares, and blocks were dry, cold, and brutal. He didn't need aura, screams, or transformations because Goku was harmless near him. And the most curious thing is, for a good part of the Tournament of Power, he was holding back. Many remain unaware of Jiren's true power, as killing was prohibited in the Tournament of Power. In the manga, Jiren was never defeated, so his true potential remains unknown. Let's explore how far he can really go. A state that allows the body to move on its own without the need for thought. And it puts Goku on a completely different level from anything we had seen up until then. Despite Ultra Instinct's impressiveness, it was temporary. Goku was bleeding, screaming, and even after reaching the complete state, Ultra Instinct still had to deal with a Jiren who increased his strength based on deep emotions, childhood traumas, and a distorted sense of justice. Ultimately, Goku prevailed with aid from 17 Frieza and a final desperate attempt by Vegeta. This shows two things, that Jiren was a real monster, and that even with absurd power, Goku didn't have the tools to win on his own. But that's where Godita comes in. Godita isn't just the fusion of Goku and Vegeta. He's the fusion with insane multipliers, a perfect technique, and total focus. Godita combines everything that Goku and Vegeta have at their best with an even greater advantage. The multiplication of fighting power with the fusion dance, which isn't just Goku plus Vegeta. On the contrary, the final power is multiplied exponentially. If it were just addition, it would already be insane. But we're talking about a being who, in his base form, was already able to fight Broly, a warrior who up to that point easily surpassed Goku Blue's level. Yes, this is the same Broly who, after turning Super Saiyajin, made the two strongest Saiyajins in the universe flee from the fight. A Broly so powerful that not even Blue Kaioken or Blue Evolution were even considered. They knew they would be overwhelmed immediately. Many people ask what would happen if Broly fought Jiren. The answer is complex, but some indications suggest that Broly would probably surpass Jiren, at least in terms of pure, raw power. Broly has no limits. His ability to adapt in battle is absurd, almost as if he were an organic, artificial intelligence. With each second, his power grows, reaching new heights when he turns Super Saiyajin, particularly in the manga, where it's confirmed to be an abnormal Super Saiyajin form. Goku even claims he might be stronger than Beerus. Definitely an exaggeration. Though Goku never faced Beerus at his strongest, his remark still holds significance. Still, if Jiren fought Broly, Jiren would likely win by preventing Broly from reaching his maximum power. But in terms of raw power, it's Broly who would go beyond. So in simple logic, in terms of raw power level, Godita would be at an unreachable level for Jiren. And this is where the gap starts to become clear. Most fans understand fusion as an addition. If Goku has 100 power and Vegeta has 100, together they have 200. But Dragon Ball has always treated fusions as more than that. They're not just sums of powers, they multiply. The animation itself and official guides have already indicated that the fusion dance creates such a high multiplier that there's no way to measure it accurately. In some descriptions, it talks about dozens of times the individual power. In derivative works, like Toei's official website and interviews with directors, there are hints that fusion creates a force greater than simple arithmetic. Avados, in the anime for example, when talking about the Potara earrings, says it's the strength of one plus the other times 10. But in the past, it always seemed to me that it was much more, both the dance and the earrings. But that would already explain why Godita's base form could keep up with Broly and Super Saiyajin. A Broly who forced Golden Frieza to defend himself for over an hour, who humiliated Goku God, who made Vegeta look like an insect even with all his blue power. Another factor that makes the fusion overpowered is the combined experience of two veteran warriors. While Jiren relies on brute strength, endurance, and a straightforward fighting style, Godita fights like a complete martial artist. Have you noticed how Jiren rarely changes his style? He's like a tank, moves forward, takes hits, and strikes back. Even when fighting against an out-of-control opponent like Broly, Gogeta kept his composure and used tactical variations. He dodges precisely, counters calculatedly, and adapts to his opponent. Godita possesses a vast array of techniques from both Saiyajins, including Kamehameha, Gelik Ho, Stardust Breaker, Big Bang Attack, and even new ones that emerge from the fusion. Jiren attacked the stands of Universe 7, which could be seen as malicious. Broly wasn't affected, but I want you to comment if you think Jiren would be affected or not by Godita's Soul Purifier. All of this makes Godita perhaps the most complete character in the franchise in terms of direct combat, except for the Angels. And if we stop to think about it, Godita Blue is the franchise's natural answer to the advancement of divine levels. In the Tower of Power arc, Jiren represents the pinnacle of mortal achievement. He surpassed a god of destruction, a feat that seemed like the limit at the time. The emergence of Broly and the necessity of fusion to contain him seemed like Akira Toriyama, and the team behind the franchise were saying, that was the peak, now let's push it further. And that's exactly what they did. Godita not only rivals the gods, he destroys dimensions while fighting. The impact of his fight with Broly breaks the laws of physics in the Dragon Ball universe. Reality seems to bend before his power, and that's no exaggeration. Visually, we see landscapes shattering, dimensional portals opening, and the energy from the fight destabilizing the entire environment. And Jiren never did that, actually, not even close. But what if, for a moment, Jiren and Godita faced each other? Jiren at his peak with his body full of energy, a pulsating red aura, and that limit breaker version that only appeared at the climax of the Tournament of Power. Godita, on the other hand, starts in his base form, because yes, he can. If the fight lasted more than 10 minutes, the fusion time might be an obstacle, but honestly, it wouldn't even need to last that long. Godita in base form could handle Broly's Super Saiyajin, so he could likely pressure Jiren without transforming. And by turning Super Saiyajin, the imbalance would already be huge. Godita's Super Saiyajin at this stage easily surpassed Broly. In fact, he didn't even take a single hit. When Godita turns blue, the discussion shifts entirely. It's no longer about who would emerge victorious. It's about how long Jiren would be able to stand. Jiren's chances of holding out are minimal. Most importantly, remember the Tournament of Power's context, rules, limits, and narrative purpose. Jiren, the final boss of the arc, was created to be defeated by Goku and his spiritual growth. He was the ideal challenge to symbolize individual triumph. But Gogeta is different. He represents the breakdown of limits, a power so absurd that it's only used when the universe literally depends on it. This fusion only appeared in two crucial moments, against Janemba and Broly. In both cases, the fusion resolved the issue. Against Jiren, it was never considered because Goku needed to win on his own, but if it had been used, it's already clear what would have happened. Dragon Ball has consistently escalated, from the early episodes where Goku faces enemies with double-digit power levels, to the present, where the series deals with universal, multiversal, and even higher power tiers. However, the arrival of characters like Jiren and Broly revealed a new paradigm, that of transcending narrative limits. Jiren was described as surpassing gods, the pinnacle of the series. Until then, but when Broly appears with his irrational growth and infinite adaptation, he rewrites the rules. Suddenly, what seemed unattainable, like Bills' status, becomes a plausible goal for a furious Saiyajin warrior. And in the midst of this chaos, Godita appears as an anchor of order. He doesn't need to grow or adapt in real time because he's already at the top ever since he fused. The ultimate solution to any problem, explaining his absence in the Moro saga, as it would have been repetitive. Although to me it seems like a huge plot hole, because the Earth was clearly at risk there. Gogeta has an interesting impact because he immediately resets the tension. Janemba was destroyed in minutes. Broly stopped fighting because of an external intervention, since the fight was already decided, so Godita never loses. If Hit entered, he would be defeated instantly. Toppo Hakaishin wouldn't see the attack coming, nor would Gohan, Frieza, Kefla, or Wanaraza. These guys wouldn't even be obstacles, and Jiren would be the last one to fall if Godita went to the Tournament of Power. And that's exactly why he can't show up all the time, because his presence breaks the narrative balance of the series. He's literally an easy mode for the story. Responsibility is key when using him, which is why he only appears when no other solution is feasible. You might think, what if Universe 11 made their own fusion? That's an interesting but illusory point. Jiren's potential partners, Toppo or Dispo, wouldn't match the synergy of Goku and Vegeta. Besides, fusions require more than just two sources of raw power. Compatibility of fighting styles, emotional balance, coordination, and power leveling are required. Goku and Vegeta's years of training, mutual hatred, and respect resulted in a coherent, stable, and immensely powerful fusion. In the Tournament of Power, Goku and Vegeta fought in sync, just as they did when training with Whis, showcasing their strong chemistry. A fusion of Dispo and Toppo might result in something powerful, yes, but hard to control, and even if it reached a high level, it wouldn't be like a fused Godita Blue. Another point that hasn't been explored much is the role of fusion in the Dragon Ball multiverse. Think about this. If Godita or Vegeta are so absurdly strong, why don't the other universes have their own elite fusions like Anarasa? The answer lies in the exceptional nature of Goku and Vegeta. They are outliers. The unique combination of Saiyajin bloodline, species, training with Whis, fighting spirit, pride, and resilience is unmatched by any other universe so far, and that makes their fusion even more special. Godita is the pinnacle of what Universe 7 has to offer, an entity that brings together all the virtues and none of the weaknesses, clearly being the true ultimate trump card. And after all that, let's get to the question. The answer comparing Godita and Jiren is completely absurd. It would be like pitting a fighter jet against a medieval knight. Both are warriors with strength, but one has vastly superior destructive power. And Godita is that jet, Jiren is the knight. Jiren is a milestone and represents the pinnacle of mortal achievement, but Godita symbolizes what happens when two such mortals transcend logic itself. A fair comparison is not possible. If Godita participated in the Tournament of Power, he would be significantly stronger than the versions of Goku and Vegeta at that time, even if they joined forces.